Good morning. Today I would like to discuss with the influence of Latin on English language. For the last class we have discussed about how did English language has taken its origin after the decline of Constantinople. The Turkians invaded, and so many scholars from the Roman Greek Renomme throughout the neighboring country, German, France, Italy, and then to England. Latin is a classical language. It has its own dignity in the world literature. It became the classical language of the Roman civilization. Latin has exercised a maximum influence on English language, and approximately there are 60,000 words are borrowed to the English language. And these words carried to England by five ways. One is through Germans, second one through Latin speaking Britons, third one is through classical translator, fourth one through German Christian missionaries, and fifth one through French. First one through Germans. Many words of Latin have entered into English through the German speakers directly because German has a direct contact with the Latin and which brought to England by German, which were used in commerce, military, trade, government, etc. For example, word street has came to England through German. In Latin, it has called Stata, Starta. In German, it is called Strasse, Strasse. And in English, it is called street. The Starta basic word is gradually goes on changing, and at last in England it is changed as street. The word like wine, apple, ditch, wall, silk, coffer, etc. were brought to England through Germans. And second one, Latin speaking Britons. In England, there are some highly educated people from upper class. They were influenced by the Latin language and they had learned this language to make themselves distinguished in the society. Because Latin language itself is considered as upper class language, orthodox language. It already recognized its the status of the language throughout the England. Only highly qualified or orthodox people can speak Latin words, and hence English language become a prestigious language in the English society. And the Latin language had made a deep impact upon the upper class people rather than the lower classes because Latin language is not an ordinary language. Latin is a classical language, hence only scholars used this language. And they came to called as Brito Latins. The Latin speaking people in England have brought many words to England. And third one is through classical translator. When Latin speaking people came to India, it was in time that the most of the Latin words, Greek words, goes on translating in the English language. While translating these words from Latin to English, some words directly transferred, not translated, transferred to the English language whenever it is most necessary for them. For example, some cultural word cannot be available in English. In such a case, the Latin words are directly brought to England by making a small alteration in stress or spellings. The Roman literature was a classical literature, for example, Divine Comedy by Dante and Aeneid by Virgil, his the teacher Dante. Until the Renaissance, Roman literature takes away interest in Roman like literature. But after the Renaissance, people come to know at least the classical literature and they wished to read the books. So many classical books were translated into English while translating the Latin works into the English. For example, the words like God and spell has been translated by me combining that God spell and the later that word is changed to the gospel, Gospel. Earlier it is God's, Gods, God's spell, Spell. And fourth way, that is through Roman Christian missionaries. It was a time that the scholars of the Roman and Christian missionaries has came to England for their the wide propagation of their own religion, that is Christianity. And Rome was the center of the Christian religion. All the Christians books have been written in Latin language. And the Roman Christian missionaries have come to England to spread their religion in England. And the principle of the Christianity, naturally they introduced many religious terms to English. For example, Latin, Missa has changed as Mass. Monsteria is changed as a minister. Papa is changed as a pope. Prosperian is changed as a priest. Diabolos is devil. Through French, fifth one is through French, English influence the Latin. The many words of Latin have brought to England through the French. They had a direct contact with the French words like smile, judge, and mediator were brought to England from Latin through French. The direct influence of Latin on English language is most deeply felt during the period of Henry VII. The influence of Latin has become strong at the time of Renaissance. Soon after the Renaissance, Latin was introduced as a medium of instructions in England, and thus it was natural for the educational men's Elizabethan age to use Latin language freely. The writer of 16th and 17th century like Milton, Browning and Bacon have used the large number of Latin words in their works. In the modern English period, also many Latin words are borrowed such as false, minimum, philosophic, scientific and philosophical words were written in the Latin of the 16th and 18th century. Thus, using the Latin words became the habit of England. Latin suffixes have become the part of the English language, suffix and prefixes. And language words like educate, elastic, dismat, etc. Here there is a list of Latinized words current in the respect terms. 16th century, exit, Genesis, area, circus, medium art. In 17th century, torpor, arena, focus, album, status, perudulum. In 18th century, neoclassical, extra bonus. In 19th century, opex ago, bacillus. So like this, so many words has been brought to England, and these the use of Latin word in English has made the English literature as well language more beautiful and more intellectual. And hence, it was very necessary that to understand that the Latin words has given the greater well to the development of English language. At last, these influence of Latins is more on the literature and that is special literary language, but it has not affected the form of the English. It has not affected the natural structure of the English people. Thank you very much.